Somewhere right now, at a construction site, a music festival, or your cousin's backyard wedding, there's a plastic box nobody wants to think about, and somebody is getting rich off it. Yeah, we're doing this one, portable toilets. Stay with me. This is actually one of the wildest little businesses in America, and by the end of this video, you're going to look at those blue boxes completely differently, possibly while holding your breath. That's fair. Before we get into it, if you like finding out that the most unglamorous, most overlooked businesses out there are secretly printing money, that's basically this whole channel. Hit subscribe, because next week we're doing this again with something else you'll never look at the same way. Okay, let's get into it. First, how big is this industry actually? Bigger than you'd think. The portable sanitation industry in the US generates well over $1 billion a year. Not a few guys with a truck money, real, actual, somebody's driving a nice car because of toilets money. And here's the thing, almost nobody competes for this. Not because it's hard to understand, it's because nobody wants to, which honestly might be the best business advice in this entire video. Find the thing everyone's too grossed out to do and go do it. So let's talk startup costs, because this is where it gets interesting. A single portable toilet unit costs anywhere from $500 to about $2,000, depending on whether you're buying the basic model or the fancier ones. Yes, there are fancier ones. We'll get to that. A small operator can realistically start with 20 to 50 units and a used pump truck, which puts your starting investment somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000. That's a real business, with real trucks, for less than the price of some people's kitchen renovation. Compare that to the last few videos on this channel. A cell tower needed $150,000 just for the land permits. This industry, you could start smaller than that and be profitable within your first year if you play it right. So how do you actually make money once you've got the units? Rental is the core of it. A standard unit rents for somewhere between $100 and $175 a month for a long-term construction site placement. Event rentals, weddings, festivals, that sort of thing usually get charged per day or per weekend, and because it's short notice and short duration, you can charge significantly more per unit than you would for a month-long construction rental. And this is the part people don't expect. Construction sites are basically required to have you. Most states have workplace sanitation laws that legally require a certain number of toilets per number of workers on a job site. So you're not really selling a product, you're selling legal compliance. Nobody wants what you're selling, but everybody is required to have it. That's about as close to a guaranteed customer as a small business owner can get. Let's talk about the service side, because this is honestly where the real business lives. You don't just drop a unit off and walk away. Someone has to come back, usually once a week for construction sites, sometimes multiple times a day during a big festival, and pump it out, refill the sanitizer, restock supplies. That's done with a specialized vacuum truck, and that truck alone can cost anywhere from $30,000 to over $150,000 depending on tank size and features. This servicing model is actually the genius part of the whole business, because it turns a one-time rental into a recurring relationship. You're not just renting a box, you're selling a subscription to not having to think about where the waste goes. And subscriptions, as we've talked about on this channel before, are one of the most reliable ways to build predictable revenue. Let's talk about the fancy stuff, because yes, there's a luxury tier to this industry, and it's wilder than you'd expect. There's an entire category called luxury restroom trailers. Think air conditioning, running water, actual sinks, sometimes hardwood style flooring, mirrors, even speakers. These are the units you rent for a high-end wedding, a corporate event, or a film set, and they don't rent for $150 a month. A luxury restroom trailer can rent for anywhere from $500 to over $2,000 for a single weekend event. Let that sink in for a second. Somebody is paying $2,000 to rent a bathroom trailer for 2 days, and it makes sense once you think about it. If you're spending $50,000 on a wedding, you are not about to let your guests use a plastic box with a half moon cut into the door. Image matters, even in the bathroom business. Now let's talk about seasonality, because just like theme parks, this industry has a calendar problem. Construction slows down in winter in a lot of regions. Festival season is basically a summer sprint. Wedding season peaks in spring and fall. So a smart operator diversifies across all three. Construction for the steady baseline income, events for the higher margin bursts, and maybe a few standing contracts with parks or public spaces for consistent year-round cash flow. Put all your eggs in one one seasonal basket, and you'll have a great June and a miserable January. Let's talk regulation, because this is not a just go buy some plastic boxes business. There are actual health codes, waste disposal permits, and in many states, you need a licensed relationship with a wastewater treatment facility to legally dispose of what you're collecting. You can't just take care of that yourself in a field somewhere. That's a very fast way to turn a small sanitation business into a very large legal problem. Insurance is another real cost here. Liability insurance matters a lot in this industry because you're dealing with waste transport, heavy trucks on public roads, and units placed in public and semi-public spaces where accidents can happen. It's not a huge line item compared to something like a theme park's insurance bill, but it's absolutely non-negotiable. Here's a fun fact that might change how you see this whole industry. There's actually a well-known company, you've probably heard the name even if you didn't know what it did, called Porta Potty, which, believe it or not, became such a dominant early brand that the name basically turned into the generic term for the whole product, like Kleenex or Band-Aid. That's not an accident. That's decades of market dominance, turning a company name into the actual word people use for the object. Quick side note, because I promised this would be a little funny, the industry actually has its own trade association with its own annual convention. Yes, grown adults fly to a hotel conference center once a year to talk about waste tank technology and the latest advancements in odor control. There are award ceremonies. There is, and I am not making this up, an innovation award category. Somewhere out there, someone has literally been handed a trophy for building a better toilet. Genuinely respect it. Let's talk franchising for a second, because that's actually a real path into this business if you don't want to build a fleet from scratch. Several national portable sanitation brands offer franchise opportunities where you pay an upfront franchise fee, get access to their branding, purchasing relationships, and route software, and build out your own local territory. Franchise investment ranges vary a lot depending on the brand and how many units you're starting with, but it's a genuinely lower risk entry point than going fully independent, since you're not figuring out the regulatory maze completely on your own. So who's actually buying into this industry at scale? It's mostly still small and regional operators, moms and pops, family businesses, guys who started with 5 units and a pickup truck 20 years ago and now run a fleet of hundreds. But there has been real consolidation too. Larger waste management companies have acquired portable sanitation businesses to fold them into broader service contracts, especially for large construction and event clients who want one company handling everything. Dumpsters, portable restrooms, fencing, the whole site logistics package. That consolidation trend is worth paying attention to because it tells you something about where the smart money sees this industry heading, not as a bunch of small local operators forever, but as a piece of a much bigger bundled service industry. That consolidation trend also shows up in something else. Pricing during high demand moments. Ever notice how porta potty rentals near a huge event, like a major concert or a stadium game, seem to cost way more than a regular construction site rental? That's not random. It's basic supply and demand, same as a hotel room during a big convention, or, let's be honest, an Uber during a rainstorm. Everybody needs the exact same thing at the exact same time, and there's only so much plastic to go around. Let's talk about the actual profit margins here, because this is honestly the most surprising part. Once you've paid off your initial unit and truck costs, the ongoing cost per unit is relatively low. Some cleaning supplies, fuel for the service route, and labor, which means the margins on a well-run portable sanitation route can be genuinely excellent, especially compared to a lot of other small business categories with similar startup costs. It's not a glamorous business. Nobody's putting portable toilet magnate on their LinkedIn headline, but dollar for dollar, relative to what it costs to get started, it might be one of the more efficient small businesses you could actually go build yourself, unlike, say, a cell tower or a theme park, which, let's be honest, most of us are never personally buying. Here's a question worth sitting with. We spend so much time obsessing over glamorous industries, tech, entertainment, finance, and almost none of us ever think about the businesses that are simply necessary, no matter what. Everyone needs a bathroom. Every construction site, every festival, every outdoor wedding needs somewhere for people to go. That's about as recession-proof a demand as you can find, because it's not really optional. Compare that to something like a theme park, which we covered a couple videos back. A theme park depends on people wanting to be entertained, wanting to spend discretionary money on fun. A portable toilet company depends on human biology. One of those demands can disappear in a recession. The other one, respectfully, is never going anywhere. The truth is, some of the least interesting sounding businesses on paper are actually some of the smartest ones to study, because they're built on demand that never really goes goes away, competition that's naturally limited by how unglamorous the work is, and margins that can genuinely surprise you once you look past the smell, figuratively, and let's be honest, sometimes literally. Ask yourself this: the next time you're at a construction site, a festival, or an outdoor event, and you see one of those plastic boxes sitting in the corner of the parking lot, how much do you think that one unit alone generates in a single year? Because it's probably more than you'd guess, and somebody out there built an entire fleet of them into a genuinely serious business, all because they were willing to do the one thing nobody else wanted to. If this changed how you think about the businesses hiding in plain sight all around you, hit subscribe, because that's exactly what we do here every single week. And trust me, there are a lot more of these waiting by the time you leave that festival tired, sunburned, and complaining about the lines. Somewhere, a service truck is already scheduled to come back tomorrow. Because in this business, just like the last one, standing still, or in this case, sitting still, was never really an option either.